Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. So it's probably a more straightforward session, between the reading and watching the documentary. Did you have particular, it's session 4, I think, is where you guys are going to want a little more support when we dive into the actual timeline activity?
So let's kind of wander through 3, and if we get into 4, that'd be great too.
Okay.
There's a clip, and then the repeating question process in inquiry 3.2 I wonder about.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me see. Where are you? 3.2. So it's just, actually, Dwayne and I recently were reflecting that 3 and 4, session 3 and 4, are becoming a little redundant. Like what's happened is we've been piling it in many different ways and, revising as we go, refining. And we noticed that 3, that repeating question, is essentially what comes up in the timeline as well. So we may change that in the future. But the repeating question, the idea, have you done it before, James? Jim,
I don't
repeating?
talk about what it is. I don't know what
Okay.
it is.
Okay. So it comes out of inner work from a teacher here in the Bay Area and others. And the idea is that you break up into pairs. One person is going to be answering the question and one asks it. And the question is repeated, but gently. So I'll actually, and you might want to do kind of show this with maybe 2 facilitators. So the question here is, what are you experiencing as you reflect on your life journey ahead? So it would be after they saw the clip and had done the reading. So it's based on that. What are you experiencing as you reflect on your life journey ahead, given what you're just learning about? And the idea of the repeating question is I ask it to you, and then Jim, you would answer it with something. Even if you said, well, I don't know right now, then I would just pause as the person asking it and then gently say, what are you experiencing as you reflect on your life journey ahead? And then you would go deeper is the idea. You would just feel in again, see what comes up without thinking about it too much. I'm concerned about my grandkids. Mm-hmm. And there's a pause. What are you experiencing as you reflect on your life journey ahead? And then that's helping the person answering it to just go deeper. And the idea is the more that you drop down, you may get down to some things you're unaware of. That's why we do it. It's kind of bringing awareness to what's under a lot of the on the top symptoms. There might be deeper ones down there. So it's people actually enjoy doing it. We have found. It is good to model it for the group and to pre-plan that modeling so the person who's going to answer the question has a moment to think about it because they're going to be in front of everybody. But we've gotten good feedback from people about it. They like it. And it's very focused. Like, so Jim, if I was asking you, it'd be very focused on you. And I would just be giving pauses. I don't say anything else as the person asking it.
I'm seeing the heat in Arizona now in a whole different way.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I would just pause and say, what are you experiencing now as you reflect on your life journey ahead? I'd have the question in front of me, so. And then you would just feel into it again.
And then we go back and demonstrate that in front of the,
and you do it. And so if you demonstrate it, I would probably have the person answer, 3 times so people can get how, just give that little pause, ask again in a gentle voice. The tone is important. And you keep going and give it at least, I think, what did we say there? At least 2 minutes per person, maybe longer. I mean, generally, how much?
3.5 minutes.
3.5. It's not a lot. It sounds like a lot. It's not a lot of time. You could do this easily for 8-10 minutes. It's surprisingly, you'd go deeper and deeper the more you would do it, because you're in the hot seat in a sense. You're sitting there, and then the only place to go is deeper as you go with your partner, and you're being witnessed too. So if I'm really paying attention, I'm witnessing you in this process. So does that help?
I think the key thing is really attending to the person you're asking the question.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So giving those instructions up front, that's something we ought to put in the handbook. Just say that the person asking it, just being aware of your tone, being aware of the pacing, giving a little space, and then really paying attention to that person and feeling them too, because they can feel it even across Zoom. Really just being there for them 100%, letting them have their experience, and not a lot of, oh yeah, or any of that. Just let them have their experience. Don't interfere with it. Don't try to say anything, so that they can really drop down. And it's all, you don't have to say this, but of course it's fine if somebody doesn't drop down. It's, it's an experience. It's just, we rarely get fully presenced like that from somebody else, especially around something like this. So, and then just taking a pause, and usually what you guys would do is send a notice saying the time was up and ask them to wrap and switch, and then maybe add a little time so they can do that, and then give the next person the time.
So
That's how it works.
technically, we're going to have to figure out how to be able to function in 18 dyads or something like that.
Pretty easy.
I mean, your experience, this is a me and you conversation. It's not really meant to be me and you with 6 people watching. It's really designed to be the kind of the two of us back and forth.
Right.
The intimacy is really important. When you've done this a lot, I've been in a lot of spiritual groups where you do it a lot, then you start having another person witness it. But at this level, I wouldn't do that. It's just 2 people, and the intimacy of the 2, especially across Zoom, really helps. So yeah, just give them those instructions. Maybe you facilitators could do it together before you teach it. You guys do this question, because that would really help. You guys have so much experience. Do it with each other, and then see what else you want to add to those instructions, or how you want to model it. It's very open-ended. It's just a method.
So what happens, we're going to do this in pairs, with some of us being facilitators and some pairs not having a facilitator. Am I following you?
No, I meant you guys might want to do it in advance of your session. That's all I'm saying. Practice.
Right, I do hear that part, but when we get there and do it on Monday night, we're going to have a whole lot of dyads that don't have a facilitator. How do we go around to different?
Oh, so you want to do the
people?
instructions to everyone together,
Okay,
and then you just pair. That you're just going to have people in pairs. So what you would do is
Okay.
just say, okay, now we're going to do this activity, and
Okay.
describe it to them, then model it, then remind them of the qualities of it after you model it. Just say, remember that the person asked, and tell them, give them the instructions that once you break into the pair, decide right away who's going to ask the question first and who's going to answer. That's the first thing they need to do to help them orient. And then begin. Somebody, and
Okay.
put the question in the chat, by the way, in case somebody has a hard time remembering or doesn't write it
Okay.
down. Put it in the chat, say it's in the chat. And when you break them, and then tell them that we'll send you a notice, a broadcast that says time to switch, and take a few seconds to end that, and then switch to the second person. Don't have a lot of discussion. No discussion, no processing what just happened, because that kind of ruins the tone of it. It's all a very quiet activity. Now we just go to the second person and switch. And some of it is really bringing that kind of sacred presence to it, just caring about the other person and just being present for them. And we can do this as peers, as you guys know. So
So how does this work relative to the logistics of Zoom? Does somebody set up the pairs in advance?
while one person, what could help if you have your large group all together, I'm not sure exactly how you're doing it, but if you're in a very large group, one person could be describing it, and then 2 people could be modeling why that's happened. Another person could be breaking up the pairs, do the breakouts. So click on breakouts. As you know, when you do breakouts, you can set it all up in advance, even 10 minutes before that, and not click go. As long as you don't click go, it will just be there. And one thing to watch out for, because we've run into this, is you're going to have do you guys have a few people in couples? in one screen. There's two people.
Yeah. Mhm.
So that is, I would put them together because you won't have it. It'll mess up the time if you put a person with them. So that will be one thing you'll have to do is move them into their own room. So probably get the names, look at the screens, see who are the couples are, do the random breakouts, then look at your couples and move them into the room of their own, which you can do. If you haven't tried that, just click on the move right next to the name and move them into another breakout room, an additional breakout room.
So in our setting, we're in breakout rooms. So you're
Oh.
saying though that we should be together for this exercise.
I recommend you're all together and then you do breakouts and dyads. Then you go into your breakouts when the activity's over. Yes, I'm sorry, I forgot about that. So all be together, all one instruction, and work. You guys as facilitators could work up, team this up together, taking on parts, maybe reminding each other, and then somebody could be working on the breakouts. And just
And
that's.
do you come back at the end of that exercise and share a little bit in the small group or what?
What you could do is I would probably come back to the main group because I don't know how you do immediately. So you bring them
Okay.
back to the whole,
Okay,
and maybe
Okay.
then it's up to you. You could either do breakouts again. You might want to take a pause and just hear a few comments. And then tell them now we're going to go into breakouts, our regular group breakouts.
What's the impact of I remember when you were, we went through this in our Monday meeting a couple of weeks ago, and these are some words I jotted down. This is a turn. People should watch the documentary before now. It's brutal, overwhelming, hard. People are distraught, despairing, a lot of gravitas. People won't want to flee, just sit in the fire. This is global social witnessing of future trauma. Anyway, those are
Are those
just,
notes from the facilitator training, Jim? That was pretty harsh.
somebody said all that when we were talking about session 3 and 4.
Yeah.
So any wisdom there in terms of, there's a tendency in me to do this quick and bounce off it and not go into it and go, now it's like the way you consume Facebook news. Okay, got it. Now I'm moving on, and not let it, and not have it be an opportunity to really,
That's why we have the repeating question in there. That's one of the key reasons. Because again, what's going to happen? I mean, culturally, look at our culture in the Western world. We have a really hard time with sharing grief, our feelings. This is about feelings. If we don't get to the feelings, we're not going to take action. The feelings are blocking a lot of the action. And we're all role models for that, whether we're in touch with them or not. So that's why you're going there with the feelings to help. That's one thing you could say when it gets hard, is that part of it, and facing it helps us feel it, and in feeling it, it opens up space. When we're holding it and we're not letting ourselves feel it, or we're blocking it, we're going to take a lot less action.
yeah, I think especially fear gets in the way. It really shuts people down and takes them easily into denial.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Any other questions on session 3?
I'm not, I'd like to know how to, and I think there's a little training piece on Zoom about this, but I don't know how to set up breakout rooms right now. I don't know how to set up pairs, but is there a little training piece on Zoom?
We could
about
do that at the end of this call if you want, because I can make you a co-host, and you can, all you guys could practice if anybody needs to.
Okay, I would like to try that because I honestly don't know how to do it yet.
Yeah, no, you definitely want to try before you do it.
Yeah, yeah. Thank
Nancy?
you.
You're
Oh,
mute
Nancy, you're
here.
muted.
Had we said that from our small group that we're setting up the pairs,
Mm-mm.
or they're doing
No.
that from the large group?
It has to be done from the large group.
So-
Okay.
Does it?
So, yeah, let's go through the logistics of that. Do you have
Yeah.
kind of the lesson in front of you? So this is what I'm understanding is going to be happening. We'll do the meditation, and then and this is going to take some technological luck, in my opinion. We'll do the meditation, then we'll go into our 6 groups and do the group check-in. Because I think, and then do inquiry 3.1 with that 1-minute clip. And then we either need a way for every one of the every one of the breakout rooms to break out into more breakout rooms to do the dyads, or we need to come back as a whole group. And then Martin is acting like he knows what to do here.
Yeah, you can only do it from the
I
main
just want to
group.
say, Martin performed a miracle with his router this week. So that grin on his face is because he's really on top of things.
I just happen to
Easy
know
with the
that
breakouts.
you can't further break out a breakout room.
Right.
Oh,
The
okay.
host has to,
Yeah.
really break out the rooms from the whole group.
That's right.
So we'll probably therefore need to, at the end of inquiry 3.1, come back together as a whole group,
Mhm.
have 2 of us explain this and demonstrate the dyads, and then somehow miraculously break everybody into pairs,
That's right.
which including figuring out how to include Jill and Luigi in the same room and so forth and so on.
You can
And
do
then-
that in advance, though.
Pardon?
You can do that in advance.
Yeah.
Well,
You
advanced
can
meaning,
set it up.
advanced
set it up.
meaning after, while we're in our 6 breakouts, somebody is reconfiguring all of the breakouts to click a new button after they come back, in that sense. And then after the dyads, the large group sharing, where they come back and talk about what happened. Are we thinking this would happen in the group of all of us, or would we try to get back into our 6 breakouts and do it there? You see that last point in 3.2?
Yeah,
It says large group.
You guys can make your own decisions, whatever. If you rather be in your breakouts, you can do that. It's really, this is just a guide for how to do it.
No,
think
I'm
it's just
sorry.
a-
I'm sort of trying to figure that out right now. Is it,
I think
what'd you say, Martin?
I think you can do it move us right back into small groups, and we can, as long as the facilitators know that they'll be, taking some comments about what happened in the dyads, that would be fine. Spend a little bit of time and then move on with whatever else we're going to do.
Mhm.
I mean, I really love this repeating question. It's very much, I've done this numerous times, I think, with other groups. And it does work. It's just paying
Yes.
attention to the other person. It's not fixing them. It's not asking them any additional questions. It's not trying to get any clarification. It's giving them just your full attention as to what they are working through in their own heads. And
Right.
it's a good process that really works.
Yep. Good.
Good.
So I'm thinking maybe Martin might be a good person to demonstrate this.
I'd be happy to.
Good. And Joyce or Nancy, would you be willing to do that, pair with him and do that?
I think Joyce would be perfect.
I would be demonstrating the talk and listen part.
Yeah, you and Martin in front of the whole group.
And I think the key thing also is just providing really good instructions
Yeah,
about
I
how
could do
to do
that.
this.
I could do that.
People will get into it, but we need to give them a very strong set of, a good set of instructions about how it's to be done.
Yeah, that's really important, Martin. Thank you. I'm kind of getting up to speed. We're juggling about 20 things here, so this is one part of it. take your time with the instructions and make sure they understand before you put them in the breakouts. That's one of the key things with the breakouts. You may think you understand it well, but check in with them after you give them the instructions. Is everybody clear? And then remind them to start with deciding who, it's when they get in the group, the first thing to do is decide. That way it helps them anchor, decide who's going to ask the question. But yeah, I think Martin's the man to do this.
Yep.
And then we would conclude that we would come back to our group of 36, and the large group sharing sort of the question is, well, what happened? What came up with you in the exercise?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I would think so.
All right.
Yeah. What are the kind of the insights? You know, it's like
Yeah.
what's new? What's an insight for somebody?
Okay. Other questions, folks? All right, are we done, or you want to maybe want to go on and give us a preview of 4? To me, it's
Sure.
like they're a unit,
Yeah, they are.
and,
They
and
are.
it's really wonderful the way our study worked out, because we did the opening, the part 1, and then boom is Memorial Day, so there was a pause, and then we did 2, which gave us the 3 pathways and stuff like that. Then boom, we had Dwayne's session, which took us back and gave us an overview. Now we've got these 2, 3 and 4, and then it's 4th of July weekend. So then that's going to give us another pause before we get into part 4 in terms of the qualities and aliveness and all that sort of thing. So it feels, the way it's played out, it feels kind of step by step a little bit.
Jim?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just have one suggestion, and that is that before we leave the dyad piece, this I do believe that's the centerpiece of people kind of engaging this material. It certainly would be for me, because even I just read the material again just a couple of hours ago, and it did bring up for me a lot of tension and anxiety, so I would suggest that we give that as much time as we can. Every person having 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes per person is probably not enough. I mean, in my opinion, giving them a bit more time, even if they're just quiet,
Mhm.
and not saying anything, but just sitting with it a little bit,
Yeah.
would be helpful, I believe.
So the instructions say 3.5 to 4 minutes. Is that more in the ballpark, or should we stretch that even more?
I would go if we have the time. I'm not trying to break into the process that we've outlined, but I would just say that to the extent that we can give that part more time, it will help us all to dive in a little deeper on what we're feeling.
What do you think of that, David?
We had 4 minutes.
Yeah, 4 minutes each.
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it sounds right to me.
Okay.
And it may take longer on Zoom for people to settle in. It's a little easier to do when the person's right in front of you.
Yeah.
And you also have the phenomenon of people getting lost on the way to the small groups.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just, I sort of have my therapist lens on here a bit, just because we're asking people to go from intellectual understanding, maybe when they first read the book, to experiential, gut level,
That's right.
let it sink in kind of understanding, heart level, gut level. And there are going to be some people that aren't used to that. And I'm just, I do see on the assignment down toward the bottom that, journal each day as you reflect on the next 60 years, which is good. But what if somebody needs to talk to somebody and they weren't on with their spouse, right? And what do you do about that? And I know on groups that I lead as a counselor, I set it up so that people have someone they can call if they want to. It's not a requirement. I don't ask them to, but just so they have that if they want to. I don't know. What thoughts do you have about that, or do you think that's needed or not?
Well, there's been a couple of different ways that's been approached. One is to buddy people up, so there's another person in the group they can talk to.
Yeah.
Another way to work with it a little bit, doesn't get to your solution, but to have for the facilitators to stay after on the call and say, we're going to be on after the call for, 15, 20 minutes. And so if you want to do more processing, or maybe we can help you with resources, so that sort of thing. So you're there right after the call. So you do your close, you close it.
Yeah.
But you don't close the call and say anyone that needs to leave can, but if you want to stay on, we can be available. And then you guys, have to be kind of creative at that moment, depending on who shows up and how they show up. We have not run into yet, but it's bound to happen. Most people have had resources. We've asked them if they have had it. Do you have resources? That's something you guys could ask too, and just say that and stay after, particularly if you don't feel like you have resources, someone at home that you can talk with, or a friend. You could make yourselves available if you're open to that. I know Sandy and Barb, when they did it, they said we're available. If you need to reach out to us, send us an email. That's one thing you could do, if you're open to that. Yeah.
Jim, you asked my opinion of this. One thing I think we need to be aware of it a little bit is the age range of the people that are in this. For instance, I'm in my 85th year. I'm not so sure I'm going to make the 30s. But my major concern is, what hits me the hardest is what it's going to do for my 3 boys and my grandchildren, and how to communicate this to them. And the other people that I know, that I live close to, friends that are in the same age group, how to communicate to them about the issue with respect to their children. I don't know how we do that, but part of that is, I think, allowing a little bit more time is good. But is there a way to ask the question so that it calls attention to that in some way?
My thought about that is that the way that we really connect with the people that we want to connect with is by making, or in my opinion, is making an emotional connect, and coming from that place of our own deep feeling. I know that, here in Pennsylvania, we talked with 2.5 million people on the phone during the last election. And and it was amazing. We talked with predominantly Trump voters, and the focus was a conversation in which we would just make an emotional connect with them. Just find a way to say, okay, you're concerned about this issue and I am too, and here's why. And you would talk about a feeling, and it was amazing. Those conversations went on for 10, 15, 20 minutes because we had an emotional connect. And that's what I think certainly that's what I think this conversation or this sharing of this question deepens our connect personally to our emotional center. And that is where we come from when we really want to communicate with others. That is that's the ticket to connecting with other people. It's not telling them what to do. It's coming from a place of our emotional center that makes the connection to them personally. So I think that's what we try to do in this set of gentle questions, is help people get to that place.
Yes, well said.
And don't underestimate the power of the group. That being with everyone and hearing other people express their concerns is healing in itself. It's less feeling alone. And that's why we're doing it this way. That's part of the whole process.
To me, that's
That was
gonna,
excellent, Martin.
I just pulled out session 4, and I think, David, as I understand sort of the dynamic between 3 and 4, 3, you're getting into the material, and between 3 and 4, you're putting your life in it and the life of your grandchildren and stuff like that. So some of that deepening and concern and having the conversation and thinking about our own lives within this is going to get more focused in the next session on the 28th. So in that sense, they kind of build together.
And it needs that time, you'll see that just making the space, people will show up into the space that you guys create, they're going to want to talk and share. By the way, Jim, we're going to create a script to the timeline activity that I'm going to get that to you within a day or so. And you can take that and look at it and understand how we did it. And then if you want to change it in some way, you can, but that'll help you since you weren't at one of our groups. All our other facilitators have done the timeline themselves, some of them in person. It's going to be done in person. So that might help you just feel into how you might do it.
On Monday night, when we went into our small groups, I was in a small group with a woman from Boston who runs an employment training operation there, and who I knew years ago. And in the midst of our conversation, she said, "Well, I read the book," she said. And when I got into that timeline, the first thing I did, I drew out a timeline, and I put my birth and death dates on it, and then I put my daughters, and I put my granddaughter's death. And I said, wow. I did that too. And I said, that's in session 4.
Yes. Yeah, powerful. That's great.
How do we, I'm going back a little bit to this business of sharing out. My concern, I'm back on session 3. I guess we just need to frame that when we're in the whole group and sharing on those dyads, as much as possible to encourage not speeches.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
I mean, it seems like every time we get into that whole group, there's speeches that
no preaching, no speeches.
But I remember doing a conference once, and we were trying to get people to really share with one another. And there's all these people who made speeches, and we had a film crew. And so we told the film crew, go over there, and if people want to make speeches, we're going to send them over there to you, so we get their speech. And so they had all the people with speeches were lined up so they could make so they could be recorded on film, and the rest of the people who just wanted to share could share.
Yep.
We can figure something out
Good
on
for
that.
you. Well, give those instructions, and tell them to keep it personal to what their insights, what was coming up for them, rather than turning it into, like you said, a speech. You can give time limits. We've done that. We've said we're also going to ask you to keep it to a minute or minute and a half. If you go over, you're going to hear a little bell, and we also sometimes say things like, for some people it's really hard to track time, so we may have to cut you off. We tell them up in advance, because it just happens to people. We normalize it. People forget, so we don't blame anyone. We just say, sometimes we lose track of time. So I don't know.
Yep.
It is. You're opening it up. It's challenging.
Okay. Any other questions on, I guess on 3 or 4?
Are we gonna talk about 4 next week or now, or we'll just go with it?
It's up to you guys. If you want to do it next week, we can do it. Maybe we should do it next week after you've had this experience.
Yeah, I was thinking that could
Time
be
kind of
good to just have maybe half hour
Yeah.
on it, just like.
I'll get you the script.
Mhm.
Yeah, that'd be.
And then
very
you guys
helpful.
could look at the script first, and then maybe that might help you figure it out. And make sure you have the timeline example you're going to show them, and then you can see.
It's the challenge there is going to be, having visuals and doing share screen and stuff like that to show the timeline, and having everybody have their own materials available and ready. Okay, anything else?
Just a quick question on the on the flow of it. At some point, I assume David or Jim, you're gonna pull us all into that big group again, and then we'll fan out into small groups again. Did I have that right? For
You're talking about number 3.
number 3.
This is my understanding. We
Yeah.
go off in our groups for the check-in, and then
Yeah.
inquiry 3.1, and then we need to set a time when we come back in the whole group. And then we'll say, now we're going to do this exercise in dyads and explain it a little bit, and have you and Martin model how that's going to work.
Okay.
And while you're doing that, then we're going to divide the whole group up into 18 or 20 dyads. I'm trying to think if would it make sense should we just try to do that randomly, or should we try and take each of your breakout rooms and subdivide them so you've got that sense of continuity, and then we have to modify it some way or another to include the folks who are on with a spouse or something like that. And then we'd have 8-10 minutes in the dyads, 4 or 5 minutes each, and then a warning, and then we'd come back to the whole group and share out what happened. And then an assignment for next week, and stay on after.
To make it super easy, I would do it randomly. I don't know if we need to stay in the same group same small group to do the dyad. The dyads can be done across the groups, and then you can just assign them very quickly. Because the one thing that you will need to do is watch where there are 2 people on a screen.
Yeah. And then just pull those out.
Yeah.
Plus people who get lost on their iPhone and they don't know where to find the button to push. All right. Good. Are we set? Anything else? Well, thank you very much. Colleen and Dwayne for taking this time with us. And I'll make this this video available. Evelyn Philbrook tried to stay awake in Taiwan to join us, but she went to sleep about 2:30 in the morning. She couldn't
Wow.
stay awake anymore, but she'll look forward to the video.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, good.
All right.
One more question. Is there a set of instructions for the repeating question? Do you have a good set of instructions?
Let me look. We had some originally. Yeah, let me look for that. We do. It might be in the handbook. I can't remember. I'll look for it and send it to you guys.
Thank you.
And you all, there's this little part about showing a 1-minute clip in the first inquiry, and having people stay with that a little bit. And the clip is in the Dropbox, which is a link in the email I just sent. And you'll have to figure out how to bring that up and show that in your breakout room.
I have instructions for that if you want me to send them out. It's pretty easy if you just follow and it's visual. It tells you click here, click here, click here.
Please send
Very
those
sure.
out. Please
Okay.
send out. Just learning these things, working at it.
All right.
Yep. And we can, if anybody wants to stay, Joyce, if you still want to stay after, we can do breakouts if you want to try it. Anybody wants to. We can
Okay.
even try well, I guess we can't try the clip now because you guys don't have it on your desktop yet.
Okay.
Okay.
So, but if we had it on our desktop, we could go fish it out and bring it on to, well, anyway, I'll ask you after we're done.
Yeah, and my
Thank you.
instructions literally are visual, so it's really easy. You put it on your desktop, but you do need to open the video in the video player you're going to use to play it. Just like if you were going to play it for someone that's sitting next to
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Don't turn it, don't play it, just leave it open. Then you
Okay.
hit share screen. And the key is you go to the advanced tab. Normally you go to share screen and what opens is basic and you pick the window you want. And this one, it's advanced, but it's not hard. It's real easy. Advanced video, it's really straightforward. And then it opens it for you. And then you just click play. But I'll send it to you. And if somebody needs to practice, you're welcome once you get the file to email me and I'll set up 5 minutes to do it with you. So feel free.
Yay.
Once you do it once, it's easy.
So each of us needs to download it to our desktop, and then we can practice how to be able to make it show.
Yeah, and don't wait till Monday, just in case you have a conflict with that video file. I can give you a Vimeo link to it, but the problem with that is you're bringing in another connection. So there we go.
There we go.
He brought it up.
There's Joanna. Let me see.
Yeah, but that doesn't look like the advanced. Is that the advanced tab? Did you use the advanced tab?
It's not something we
Is
do.
that the clip?
That's the clip. Because I had it downloaded to my, whatever the place is.
My first-
No, it's interesting. When I do the advanced tab,
Mm-hmm.
then it asks me to go find the actual video as opposed to, so I.
But
when I
you
go
want to do that.
Anyway, we'll figure it out.
Okay. But one thing to say, when you do it through the advanced tab, what it actually does is they built a new player, the Zoom player, and that plays without stuttering. It's better quality than if you use the basic. That's one reason we're using it, just so you know. But again, I'm happy to practice with you if you need help, so just let me know. I'll send you these written and visual instructions on how to do the advanced tab, but it's not advanced, it's easy.
And send your email too.
Yeah, I will. I'll
Just
send
for the
it.
record. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, all right. Thanks, everyone.
Martin, I like your t-shirt.
Are you in the Bay Area?
Yes.
Yeah.
I grew up in Oakland, went to Berkeley. So
Yeah. Yep.
Great.
Steph Curry.
All right.
All right, guys. So no one's staying after. We'll move on. I'm going to close the meeting then. Is that okay?
Colleen,
Yeah.
when I clicked on share screen, it said host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Oh, yeah. So that is
There's
a good point.
in the settings, you've got to allow that to happen.
That's right. That's right. You guys might want to get on in advance and make sure that all the facilitators before the meeting starts can actually do share screen. And
Okay.
in the
Okay,
settings, it
'cause
does need to be
that's what
set
I
up.
need to know. I don't know how to do it.
Well, whoever is your point person, one person should be doing yours. Whoever is the Zoom link is the main host. They need to make sure all you guys can do share screen.
And don't they have to give you permission to do it too? They have
Yes.
to push a button to like give you
There's
permission.
a setting somewhere that allows it.
Yeah, yeah.
Either if you're co-host, you could do that, make them all co-hosts, or you can do it in the settings for every participant if you want. I usually do it through co-host, but it's up to you.
Okay.
All co-hosts can
That's
do
how
share.
we've been doing it. So
Okay.
David and I learn something new every time, don't we, David?
Yeah, sure.
Yep. All
Thank you
right.
very much.
All right.
Thank you
luck.
all
Good
for
luck.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Have fun.
jumping on.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much.